Welcome to another episode of Evolve and Inspire. Today we have Ayman Kaouri from General Manager of Scope Middle East, who's also known as the Chief Techhabibi. Ayman, how you doing?
Very good, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
No problem at all. I'm going to start by going back to the beginning of your journey, growing up. Where did you grow up?
It's a long story, man. So I was born in Belfast for the first 5 years of my life. Yeah, so I had a Northern Irish accent for a little while. Then I actually moved over to the UAE. So I was in Sharjah for a couple of years in the early 90s, giving my age away a little bit there. And then, we were here for a couple of years, then moved to Manchester, so over in England, and then Milton Keynes is where I spent most of my life after that. Dotted around a bit after that, so moved to like Birmingham and London for a bit, and then ended up settling in Milton Keynes before finally moving over to Dubai a couple of years ago.
How were you at school?
I think I was a good kid, so like overall I was hardworking. I was a hard worker. I tend to get good grades without like trying too hard, so I wasn't like a complete bookworm, but I think I found school relatively easy, at least in the early years. I think when it got to A-levels, I tried to kind of use the same playbook that I had for years. I was not trying hard, and I was like, okay, actually, this is serious now.
You always say that the jump from GCSEs to A-levels are a bigger jump than you would have like from A-levels to university.
I genuinely found A-levels harder than university.
Really?
Yeah, I think it is.
What makes you say that?
I think it is the jump.
Yeah.
I found like GCSEs, I didn't really have to study that much and I got some good grades. Whereas, when it came to A-levels, I found myself doing some retakes. I was like, oh my God, I'm not used to this. I just use the same thing that I'd always done, which is not like, just rely on natural ability and what I recall from the lessons and a little bit of like skim reading quickly, but it just didn't cut the mustard, quite frankly. And university, I found, at least first year, I think they ease you into it.
Yeah.
Whereas A-levels, they don't.
Yeah, you're thrown into the deep end.
Yeah, exactly.
What were your preferred subjects when you were growing up in school?
So from a young age, I was actually into like computing.
Yeah.
So computer programming. Both my parents, so my dad was an electronic engineer, which has a coding element to it, and my mum was a computer programmer.
Yeah.
So from a very young age at home, I kind of learned how to code when I was like 6 years old, let's say, and by 8, I was like fixing the computers at home, taking them apart and doing upgrades, etc., etc. So I really got into it. Then at school, I kind of enjoyed that, but I also enjoyed languages. So I think I was really good at computing, but I actually really enjoyed learning languages the most. And it's odd that I'm not working with anything to do with languages at the moment. I do tend to use them, but maybe it's because I grew up bilingual. So at home we would speak in Arabic, but as both my parents are Lebanese, so at home we'd speak Arabic and outside, I'd just speak English, obviously at school and stuff with friends. So I think I found learning languages quite easy. So when we started like French in year 7, I'd finish most of what they were trying to teach us in that first 15 minutes of the hour. And then I had to teach like a Japanese kid that didn't know a word of English, how to speak English instead. So that was interesting. And then, I learned like both French and Spanish growing up, and I really enjoyed both, but Spanish a bit more. So to this day.
Are you fluent in both of them?
French, I'd say I'm conversational, so I can get by because I haven't focused on it as much. Spanish, I think I could work in a Spanish company and get by okay. Like I wouldn't say I'm like a native, but I can hold a conversation really well, I think.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
You said that obviously you grew up and you were into IT. Did you always think that you were going to get a job in IT, have a career in IT?
I think it was inevitable, quite frankly, just because I was good at it. And it came naturally to me. So, and so I studied computer science at university as well. I did a placement year over at Oracle as part of that. So that kind of really helped cement that career path for me.
How was your experience at Oracle?
I really enjoyed it. So I was there at a really exciting time. So I worked at the offices in Reading. At the time, they were building their whole new kind of ERP suite called Fusion. And I was involved in the payroll product early days. Okay. So I was getting involved in building out the database in its early days for Fusion, which is still around till today. So, they didn't just give me like rubbish jobs to do as an intern. They gave me a solid job for the year, and I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot. When I came back to uni in final year, I got like 98% of my database exam.
Oh, wow. I think that's so important, when you go on like an internship or an apprenticeship. Like I was really blessed when I got into accounting and I was in an apprenticeship, and I was exposed to a lot of things in practice, and I was kind of just basically thrown in the deep end, learn how to swim. And I think that's so important because it builds everything that, you know, it allows you to grow as a person. You'll have setbacks, but it allows you to grow as a person. And I think it's really important just for your career perspective. How important did you think it was just being able to learn all of that?
I think it was invaluable, to be honest. I think academic work and just study alone isn't enough really to prepare you for the world of work. So I'd been working before that, so I'd always held down a part-time job.
Yeah.
So from when I was 16, I started working like a men's suit shop when I was at sixth form, and then I moved into a mobile phone shop. I would sell things out of my locker as well, but you know, I'd go around buying mobile phones that were locked to networks and unlocking them and selling them on eBay for more, making money. So me and my friends would do that. So I was always quite entrepreneurial. I always had some kind of like side gig. And yeah, I remember even when I was at university, I was actually working in a mobile phone shop. I was even like the key holder in Birmingham Bullring.
Oh, were you?
The link, on a Sunday. So I'd open up on a Sunday. This is while I was a student, right?
Oh, the link.
Yeah.
Oh, you're showing your age for.
Yeah, I know, man. The grey hair was not enough.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I think going back to placement years, I think they're really important because when you then graduate, you've got a year of solid work experience in your field, ideally, on your CV.
Yeah.
That, I believe, was crucial for me landing the role I did.
What role did you land after finishing university? Where did you go to next?
Yeah, so I went to uni in Birmingham at Aston, and then I ended up moving to London, and I got a job at a property management software company as a customer service person. So basically, it was more than just answering the phone. We did like first, second, and third line support essentially. So we would implement for large companies like Tesco's, lots of the banks used our software to manage all their property portfolio basically. But each of them would have a bespoke implementation. They didn't just have like an off-the-shelf, like a cloud product like we tend to use in SME space these days. It was customized. So I would have to get involved. Let's say they had an issue. I'd have to go into the code, work out where the issue was, create a patch and to fix the bugs, release it and everything like that. So yeah, I really enjoyed that first role.
And how long were you there for?
I was with the company for 8.5 years, but
I
was there for a long one. But I did move roles like 3 times during that period.
How did your role change from being a customer service?
Yeah, so I'd like to think I'd try and be the best in any role that I take on. So I think I demonstrated that I was more than just a coder.
Yeah.
And I ended up having so the way the company was structured was, you had customer service as like an entry-level position, and you had people that would stay in that for a long time because they enjoy it.
Yeah.
Other people might use it as like a stepping stone to get into consulting.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, you move into like say project management, which is you're running these projects to implement. So I kind of had my eyes on 2 roles ahead.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to be a project manager, so I kind of communicate that to my boss and my boss's boss. I said, yeah, well, we can kind of see that in you.
Yeah.
They said, you got to do consulting for a little bit. We can't just throw you straight into that. So I did it. The plan was that I'd move into consulting for a year.
Yeah.
And these were people that had at least 10 years on me in terms of experience. But I kind of proved my worth and got into that. And then the plan was I'd do that for a year before start dabbling with project management. I was in that role for 9 months and they started giving me projects to manage as well. So then I was like in a team of project managers who were all probably 15 to 20 years older than me, on average. In that. So, but I think I never shied away from a challenge, and I always believe in, don't keep things to yourself.
Yeah.
If you want to do something, I found it really important to communicate that and make it clear to the people that can make it happen that that's what you want to do. I think people maybe worry that it might look like they are just looking out for themselves and not interested in their current job, but I think you need to show ambition, and every company needs ambitious individuals in it.
100%, because I think the alternative is that if you're not communicating that you're going to go try look for a job yourself, and you're going to end up leaving a business, going to another business, and the grass isn't always greener. You never know how it'll be in a different business.
100%.
So it's extremely important. So what happened after that then?
After that, I won't go into the details of exactly how I left, but I left involuntarily after the company was acquired.
Okay.
Basically, there was some new conditions that I wasn't going to stay with. I wasn't going to sign up to. So I ended up leaving, and then I ended up landing a job at Xero 1 month later. So imagine this. So I could have stayed where I was. I opted, on a matter of principle, let's say, not to continue. And I had faith, that if I'm doing things for the right reasons, then God would look after me.
100%.
And, alhamdulillah, after, within a month, I think it was a day before we were due to fly to Malaysia on a family holiday, I get the call saying, you got the job at Xero. So and then went away for a couple of weeks and had a job to come back to, which was exciting.
How was it at Xero?
I loved working at Xero.
How long were you there for?
I was there for 5.5 years.
5.5 years.
So I'm loyal,
Good
man.
stint.
Yeah, I'm loyal. Look, if I feel I'm being looked after, I stay places.
Yeah, 100%. I think that environment wherever you're working, if you're enjoying your job, you've got no reason to kind of move.
Yeah, and I don't seek comfort in jobs. So for some people, look, it's not everyone's bag to be uncomfortable. I always sought discomfort, and it sounds like a weird thing to say, but genuinely, if I became comfortable, that means I'm bored. So even at Xero, I did 4 different roles in that 5.5 years because, again, I continue to push for where I think I can add value. If I feel I can add value in something beyond my role, then I feel I'm doing the company a disservice by not offering that.
Yeah. And what were your roles at Xero?
So I started out managing part of our partner consulting team, which was basically a team of consultants, lots of them former accountants from practice in the UK. And they would help accounting firms digitalize and move off the old way of working with like Sage 50 and Excel spreadsheets, etc., and move to the cloud, so moving to Xero. So my job was to essentially manage the team of those consultants and help them perform better, see what they needed, create the conditions for them to really thrive at what they do.
How did your job roles then differ because you had 4 different roles? Yeah,
so I did that for a couple of years, and then I found that I was seeking a role that allowed me to have a broader impact on the business. And there was an opportunity whereby there was a new team being created called the operations team, which is essentially like a strategy execution function. So the idea was that Xero would have its like long-term strategy that the strategy team would come up with on a global scale. We would then be charged with taking that long-term plan and breaking it down into a 12-month operating plan, which would culminate in us having a number of different projects or programs of work. So I reached out to the newly appointed director of that team, which didn't yet have a team, and said, look, this is where I think I can contribute. And I ended up getting a job as a project manager in that team, so to help manage these kind of programs of work that help us get towards our global strategy.
How long did you do that for?
So that role in that team was for a year. Before I then got promoted into a commercial lead role within the same team. Which basically meant that rather than just managing the projects, I was essentially setting the direction and what good looks like for those projects. So almost like a project sponsor as opposed to just a project manager managing the deliverables.
Meaning you had to go on loads of exhibitions, Accountex,
that was part of the course, to be honest. Anyway, like we used to do that. I did that probably throughout my time at Xero. I think I attended XeroCon like 3 or 4 times at least during my time there. And
how do you find these exhibitions?
I think that they're great, to be honest. I think probably in the UK now there's so many. At the time, XeroCon was the one that everyone was super excited about. It kind of stood out. It wasn't boring. It had a really good vibe to it, and people would enjoy just letting their hair down a little bit at those events. It had a more informal vibe, whereas I think accounting as an industry has some stuffiness around it. It's a traditional industry.
It's very formal. Accountants are boring.
Well,
it's changing now.
I actually don't think they are boring. I think the organizational cultures have been boring. And that kind of doesn't necessarily breed creativity.
100%.
And I think what Xero did really well in the UK and in other markets like US, in Australia and New Zealand, it was kind of disrupt that stuffiness. And make it a little bit funner and a bit more accessible. And I think it almost in many ways made accounting cool. And I think you get like some of the younger guys coming into the industry have much better conditions now in the UK. I actually think probably over here in the UAE, it's still a bit stuffy compared to what it's like now in the UK.
UK, yeah.
And obviously there's still going to be traditional firms everywhere,
Yeah.
but it has undergone a big transformation. And I think those events, there's now many of them, and you can see the new ones are all quite laid back affairs.
Yeah, like digital accounting show, like it's very it's miles apart from Accountex. Like even if you just attend them, you can just see how different it is. And I think the people that are coming to digital accounts show are probably the newer accountants, the younger accountants, and then they have like after parties and all sort of things. Whereas Accountex is a bit more traditional, a bit more formal, and it's a lot different. So then after Xero, you decided to take a big plunge.
Yeah, well, that wasn't my last role at Xero, so let's just finish that story before I tell you about the plunge that I took. So I spotted an opportunity basically that I thought we were leaving money on the table in the wider EMEA emerging markets region. So Xero has offices around the world in what they call core markets.
Yeah.
What they didn't have was boots on the ground in non-core markets.
Yeah.
Lots of the business that they would get from these non-core markets was somewhat organic. So people know about Xero already. They'll sign up to the partner program. They will buy Xero subscriptions, and they did well growing it. I kind of pitched this idea of us creating a new team that would almost like an experimental team whereby we can uncover the next big market for us by investing a little bit in certain non-core market, emerging markets that we thought could really have legs. Yeah. One of those ones that I was looking at was the UAE. So I'd been coming out here. I'd been to Saudi, been in the region, really trying to get to learn it a bit more. We also focused on Ireland, which has a big base naturally due to its proximity to the UK. But yeah, so I ended up owning a team and basically building out a go-to-market team with like marketing and salespeople to start going after these emerging markets and try and see if we can get some traction, albeit from the UK, but like visiting occasionally in the markets and just giving it a go. So I ended up leaving Xero after a year. Priorities changed in the company, and as a result of that, I had to find myself a new challenge. And at that moment, lots of people were asking me, "Hey, what are you going to do?" And I'd already kind of in my mind spoken to my wife as well. We decided we wanted to move to Dubai. Yeah, we would have wanted to have done it a couple of years later, but we just hit the fast forward button and decided to move to Dubai. And then I'd get people calling up saying, "Well, what are you going to do?" I said, "Well, I'm moving to Dubai. I don't know what I'm doing yet." And then eventually I managed to, I met the people that are now my business partners who I knew from my time at Xero. We had conversations and one thing led to another. We ended up going into business together here. Yeah.
So tell me more about this business. I'll let you name the business.
Yeah, so I run a company called Scope Solutions Middle East. Scope has been around for about 13 years now. So in Malta though, so my business partners are both Maltese. They've done a fantastic job at kind of really owning the space in Malta. What we do is essentially like digital transformation for accounting firms and SMEs. So Scope have been probably the largest contributors to the digitalization of accounting firms in Malta over the last decade. Yeah. And, products like Xero are now really well known and quite commonplace in the market over there because of the excellent work that the Scope have done. But what we do is we help accounting firms and SMEs choose the best kind of cloud-based software out there. Often it focuses around the finance function, but not necessarily. But for an accounting firm, it's about let's digitalize their end-to-end workflows. First step is often let's get you off spreadsheets and desktop software and into the cloud. That could be Xero, it could be other accounting software. And then there's other parts to it which can integrate with your accounting. It could be something pre-accounting, so helping streamline the data entry side of things using tools like OCR tools. You might have heard of the likes of Dex, FileAI, etc. And then you've got reporting tools that might plug into your accounting software again to help you do cash flow forecasting, budgeting, financial statements, etc. There's quite a lot more that you can do. So we basically help these businesses adopt the technologies. We will then, we would sell it to them essentially as resellers, and we would help them implement it, and we train their teams as well. And we then support them. So they essentially have one partner that they can work with understands their tech stack and understands their business. And we're not just going to be representing one vendor. We're kind of impartial.
Yeah.
And we're able to support them across the workflows.
So when did you realize that the UAE had a need for this?
I recognized this while I was at Xero,
Yeah.
right? So, which is why I was kind of exploring this market a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then when I was asked the question, is there an opportunity for us in the Middle East? I said, absolutely. I feel that the UAE and the Middle East, and particularly the GCC at the moment, is a hugely exciting place to be. The UAE has taken real strides, I would say, to adopt technologies and be a front runner in many spaces. I would say, sadly, accounting hasn't had the same transformation yet, and there was a big opportunity in that respect. Like in the UAE, like tech is everywhere, right? Whether it's ordering your taxis or ordering food, getting things like convenience services are everywhere, right? Everything's available from your phone. I would say accounting still hasn't gone through that revolution here, and probably because accounting is new.
Yeah.
So, traditionally you've had some audits done, and bookkeeping has often just been done in a spreadsheet or an older desktop software. I won't name and shame, but it hasn't always been a priority because VAT only came in 2018.
Yeah.
Corporate tax only came in last year.
Yeah.
So there hasn't really been the need until now. 100%. So actually, and then we've got e-invoicing coming next year, right? So the need is there here, absolutely. I also really strongly believe that this region is really going places, and SMEs make up over 99% of the market, more or less, 98, 99%. I don't know what the exact figure is, but it's a huge part of the economy.
Yeah.
Those SMEs to really thrive ought to have really solid finances in place.
100%.
And really good accountants are key to that. And for you to do accounting effectively here, you really need the tools that are going to help you do that. And unfortunately, the adoption hasn't quite been there. So I would say, if you look at what strides the UAE's taken, despite not having necessarily the best accounting technology that's going to help these businesses really see into their finances and get advice. Imagine what's possible once they start getting that. Yeah,
I agree. I think obviously at that time when we were looking to set up here, even if you're looking at the internet or anything like that, you're getting a lot of conflicting information. And for us to decide on our tech stack, it had to be something that was suitable for people that were based in the UAE, that was specifically for the UAE. And I agree in the sense that I think the UAE is so advanced in technology, but I feel like it's really behind when it comes to accounting, because there's so many softwares that are out in the UK and around the world that haven't been implemented in the UAE. And obviously that started our relationship because I found you on LinkedIn posting, and I thought, okay, this person looks like an expert. and let's find out what that looks like in terms of the UAE. And it's having your expertise has been really important for us, because otherwise we would have, decided on software that probably wouldn't have been as effective. For example, we have Wafik now for a lot of our clients, and I think that it's such a good piece of software because it doesn't require you to have Dex integrated or anything like that. It's all within that, and having the direct bank feed is such a game changer.
Yeah.
Tell me more about direct bank feeds and why direct bank feeds are not existing in the UAE at the moment.
Yeah, so rewinding back a little bit to when I was in the UK, I was there when direct bank feeds were still new, before open banking. So the thing that really revolutionized bank feeds and accounting software in the UK was the introduction of open banking. This meant that banks had to essentially open up their APIs to fintech, accounting tech kind of platforms to be able to access the information that's available, provided it's been authorized by the user. This meant that basically it kind of democratized banking data to software providers. And what that meant was you no longer had to, as an accounting firm, you no longer had to wait for your clients to send you the bank statements at the end of the month, at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year, and continually chase them, I imagine. Is often the case.
You still have to do it now.
Yeah.
With certain, I think bank feeds, for example, Wile here has got an open banking, but everything else hasn't. So the clients that are using Mushroom or something like that, for example, we still have to chase them at the end of the month.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's still commonplace, and even in the UK, I don't think like everyone's fully utilizing them.
No,
but where you do use them, it's a game changer.
Yeah.
So the firms that have bank feeds set up for their clients basically find that they've been able to shift their bookkeeping to be more regular. Sometimes the client manager will basically have a job to do every morning, go in and reconcile the bank.
Yeah.
You've got up-to-date information. Like imagine what you can do if you go into your accounting software and you can see your actual position of the financial health of your business in a snapshot immediately. It's game changing. It means your accountant can give you so much more value.
100%. And I think business owners need to understand that, because I think when business owners look at a business, sometimes it's very simplistic. Oh, this is how much cash I got in the bank, so this is how much I'm going to spend. But not knowing that these are the bills that are going to come out, whether next month or VAT or corporate tax or whatever it is. And having that up-to-date information allows you to make decisions.
That's the key thing. It's being able to make data-driven decisions, right?
Yeah.
Rather than just relying on gut feel. The worst thing you can do, one of the worst things for a business is managing cash flow. Cash flow and poor cash flow is one of the biggest reasons why businesses fail.
Yeah.
So not having foresight into that is a real challenge. So this kind of helps mitigate that significantly.
Yeah.
And it means that your accountant can be more than just someone that's telling you about how things have gone, and it can become someone that can tell you about how things can go.
Yeah.
Right. So this is the key thing. So the UAE hasn't had bank feeds largely. Most of the banks don't have them yet. Weo Bank, being one of the neobanks in the region, very cleverly set up their APIs early so that software providers can connect to them. And Wafik is one of the beneficiaries of those. So they've been able to very easily kind of build that integration. And it means that, and with Weo being one of the most popular banks here as well, they tend to make it very easy to set up a business bank account compared to many of the other banks. With that in mind, it's been a really a no-brainer for many startups over here. Well, I might as well get my Weo bank set up, and Wafik's a great product that can integrate that. I believe also Zoho have an integration with Weo as well.
Yeah, I think
but those are the only two, to my knowledge, that have that. And it's a game changer.
How important is it to select the right software?
I think it's crucial. I mean, look, at the end of the day, when it comes to bookkeeping, most of the top platforms, they do the bookkeeping well.
Yeah.
I don't think there'll be compliance issues there necessarily. You can be assured that as long as you've got a decent accountant, decent bookkeeper, your accounts will be compliant no matter what software you choose. It then comes down to other things. Who you're banking with. I would say if you have a platform that gives you bank feeds, that would be preferable.
Yeah.
Then there's user experience. What's it feel like to use this? Am I going to use it because I get on with it?
Yeah.
If you're not going to use it because you find it difficult, then that's not going to be that helpful to you as a business owner.
100%.
And then there's other things such as what's the nature of your business and what other systems are you using?
Yeah.
So that can be a big consideration. Xero has one of the best ecosystems of third-party apps out there anywhere in the globe.
Yeah.
QuickBooks has a great one as well.
Yeah.
I feel that Xero has the best third-party ecosystem of apps anywhere that I've seen. And so if you have, let's say you're using Shopify or anything like that, or any other online store, it's highly likely that there is an app that can integrate with your Xero.
Yeah.
I would say if your business doesn't currently need those third-party integrations, then and you're just looking for a bookkeeping solution, then arguably there are some good local players like you mentioned, Wafik, that can do that job fantastically and will give you the Weo bank feed. So it depends on the nature of the business, I would say, and what you really value as a business.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's about what you value as a business, because we've got a lot on Wafik, but our own, we use Xero just purely because of the integrations. You can use things like Float, Stripe integrates with it, and it just Float. I want to mention Float because I think it's such a good software. To be able to make decisions, and it takes all your information from Xero, and you can just make decisions about your cash flow and make scenarios. So if you're going to hire staff, or how will that look? And I think people don't take things like that into consideration. when they're making these key decisions like hiring staff, getting office space, or putting money into marketing, and then that's where businesses kind of fall down, like you said about cash flow. I read a story about a business, and I can't remember what business, but it's a massive company, and he was saying that that company was close to going out of business until they did this one thing. They changed their supplier payments from 30-day terms to 90-day terms, and it completely overhauled the business. Like it saved the business, but that business is now it's multi-million-pound business.
Wow.
But just that one thing of changing your supplier terms has absolutely it saved you from going into liquidation.
That's interesting, because I think more people are often trying to shorten their payment terms.
Yeah, so this is the payments that they're making to creditors. So instead of having to pay them in a month, they're paying them in 90 days.
Got it. So it's the other way around. So it's not what they demanded. Yeah, okay, got it. Yeah.
So they're getting 3 months to make payments, and that just completely saved the business, and people don't realize how significant that is. And if you don't have software, how would you expect to be able to make them decisions?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you're shooting blind, aren't you? Right.
Yeah.
And imagine like you got a target and you're trying to fire and like you're blindfolded. That's essentially what you're doing.
Yeah, it is. And again, it goes down to what you said is just based on gut, and that can only take you so far.
Yeah, and some people have some fantastic guts, and like some people are very resilient. Some people have, and that could be, mentally resilient, but it could also be financially resilient.
Yeah.
Maybe they've got a really solid kind of safety net to hold them down while they work things out. I would say you don't necessarily have to rely on that quite so much if you can have a really solid like financial foundation in your business.
Yeah. It's important. I always joke because if I have a business that I don't do any cash flow or anything like that for, it works. It kind of any like no preparation, no budgeting or anything like that, the business generally works. But anytime I start putting numbers in Excel, I don't think it works. Where do you think Scope will go to now?
So
what are your plans?
So we're present in a few markets. I'm involved in the Middle East business.
Yeah.
Currently, we are focusing on the UAE.
Yeah.
We really want to double down here and make sure that we're able to help as many practices as possible. So we're primarily focusing today on accounting firms.
Yeah.
We will then broaden out into a few other industries most likely. So looking at, we already can serve retail, both online, bricks and mortar with like inventory solutions and e-commerce integrations. We've got really good solutions for professional services firms for like job costing and project management, this kind of thing. So we can service a few different markets. Proactively at the moment, we're going after the accounting firms because we feel that that's a really good channel for us. We've got a really good playbook, but also if we can help them, they've got many clients that can also be helped. Yeah. Right. So it almost maximizes the positive impact that we can have in the market. Beyond the UAE, I would say in the years to come, I mean, we already service clients in the rest of the GCC. Yeah. I think the likelihood is that we will expand proactively into another geography. Saudi is a huge market in the region. Yeah. It would be foolish, I think, for us to ignore that. Yeah.
You mentioned about partnering with accounting firms. Do you have a lot of resistance when you're pitching to accountancy firms? People that are maybe stuck in their own ways, or how do you combat that resistance?
Yes, there is. So, and we saw this in the UK as well. So, like adoption of anything new, there is this whole kind of bell curve effect where you get like early adopters, kind of the early majority, then you have the late majority. Yeah. And then it's the late adopters. I don't know if those are the correct terms, but essentially it's like those that adopt things earlier are always going to be there. I think you guys are probably in that category. I would say you like to try out the new tools.
Oh yeah, 100%. I feel like it's the world we live in as well. You just can't stand still, especially in business. Yeah. And like with AI now, we'll go into AI in a minute, but we've been early adopters for that because you have to just kind of embrace it.
Yeah, and I would say you're in the minority over here for sure.
Okay.
The majority of people here have been doing things a certain way for many, many years. They don't currently know what else is out there and that it's necessarily better. I also think that the nature of an accountant in many ways is to be risk averse. And that's actually a good thing.
I'm the total opposite.
I'd say in general, you don't want your accountant to be like have too much of an appetite for risk when they're looking after your books, right? So it's almost a good thing.
Yeah.
The flip side of that is that it might not make them the most adventurous in general when it comes to trying new things out.
Yeah.
So they'll often slip back to their comfort zones of this is what we've always done. They'll get excited by something new, but then very quickly, I think lots of the decision makers in practice here, their practices are still dependent on them on a daily basis. They haven't been able to extract themselves from the operation such that it doesn't need their daily input. Unfortunately, there is, not in all firms, but in a large number of firms here, a culture whereby it's kind of do what I say, and I want people they're just going to say yes and do exactly as I say and not think outside the box, not challenge. I don't think that breeds creativity and innovation in businesses that you need here. And for that reason, lots of firms here are struggling to compete effectively.
Yeah.
Their modus operandi is to essentially, let's compete on price. I'm just going to be the cheapest.
Yeah.
What happens then is margins get tighter and tighter and tighter. And when your client leaves you, it's probably because someone else has offered them something cheaper.
Exactly,
and not because it's better.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, if those are the kind of clients that you want, the loyalty isn't necessarily going to be there.
Yeah, the loyalty is based on price.
Yeah, the service quality has to come first. And for you to offer a solid service, you can't be the cheapest, unfortunately.
Yeah, you can't.
And then, so I think that exists here.
Yeah.
And it will take time to bring those people along. So you almost have to like pick and choose to what extent you push certain things with certain people. I think many businesses and many business owners that hopefully one day want a bit more freedom so that their businesses aren't dependent on them, because I don't think that's good for long-term prospects of the business to be dependent on the owners to sign off on things on a daily basis. I think they should be looking at succession planning and empowering their staff more.
Yeah.
I think those guys will be the kind of the late adopters.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of other businesses out there, whether they're younger ones or ones that have seen how effective technology can be in helping them get an edge. Like imagine if you're able to do the same amount of work, significantly less time, what you can do with the team that you've got. You can upskill them, introduce new service lines, take on more clients.
Yeah.
All of these things are going to help you grow and make you stand out. A superior service ultimately will lead to better referrals.
100%. How important do you think it is for a mindset change from accountants working in the business to on the business?
I think it's crucial. Honestly, I could think of nothing worse than my business being dependent on me on a daily basis. Like to some extent, I want to be providing strategic direction. At some point, it doesn't make sense. And today, my business is still a young business, so I do get involved in the daily operations. I don't think that should, like if you've got a business that's 20 years old and it still depends on you showing up daily to be able to operate, there's a problem there.
100%. I think, especially when it comes to business, the reason why people move away from a 9 to 5 is so that they can be their own boss and they won't have like a cap on how much they earn. But if you're still not getting freedom of time and having to work daily on a business and always having to work, and like you said, being in a business for 20 odd years and you still have to do that, then there's something that is either wrong or you're just built different.
Yeah, you're built different, but also like, there's going to come a day when you need to retire,
100%.
whether you like it or not. Things can get in the way, your health can catch up with you, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Sometimes, your family needs you more than your business at some point. Like your priorities ought to shift at some point.
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
And for you to be able to do that, I really think business owners out there that are still getting involved, they need to be planning ahead to the point at which they are able to extract themselves from the business. Not just for their business's sake, because I think they genuinely need them. I think you need fresh ideas. You need people that are prepared to challenge you. You need to have that psychological safety in the organization so that you can continue to innovate. Like what happened with Nokia, right? Very few people still have a Nokia these days. Yeah. And they were everywhere.
Yeah, they were.
They didn't innovate quickly enough.
Yeah.
They didn't adapt. And, Apple swooped in and then...
BlackBerry as well.
Exactly, yeah. Same thing. So maybe your business is fantastic, was
Yeah.
fantastic. It doesn't mean that it always will be.
Yeah.
You need to have innovators in your business that are going to adapt. And sadly, if you've been in the business for 20 odd years or whatever the time is, I'm not kind of
Yeah.
ageist or against older businesses, whatever the age of your business is, you should be thinking about having room for innovation. And that means that you need to empower your people to be able to challenge you and bring fresh ideas, because you're not necessarily going to be the best person to bring those ideas to the table.
And to be honest with you, I think one of the other things that you mentioned, like you have to have them processes in place for that business to run without you, not purely because of one day you're going to retire or how your business is going to evolve. Someday you might want to sell your business.
Yeah.
If you're going to sell your business, if the only thing that you're doing is everything's based on you, you can't sell yourself pretty much. So you want to get out, you want to sell that business. So
Yeah.
it has to be a business that kind of runs itself as
Yeah.
well in the end.
And may God prolong your good health, but
Yeah, you never know.
you never know.
Yeah,
You never know. And
Yeah.
you've got families that depend on you. Do you not want a resilient business that doesn't
Yeah.
need you there?
Yep. You talked about priorities changing. How did priorities change, and what milestones did you have in life that changed your mindset? So let's say from leaving university, you must have had some kind of mindset or some kind of ambition that this is what I'm going to achieve in the next how many years. Sometimes it could be that you have that mindset you think that you have that mindset for the rest of your life, but it ends up being a certain amount of years.
For me, I would never had like by this age I need to have done
Yeah.
this, and by this I think that can be somewhat arbitrary. What I have had is always I want to be better than I was yesterday.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
I also had set goals. So I would set, like, as I mentioned to you, I was looking like 2 roles ahead.
Yeah, yeah.
Every time I got a role, I was always like, well, what's the next one, and how am I going to get there?
Yeah.
And almost treat myself as a project.
Yeah.
So like, okay, to get that role, these are the stakeholders.
Yeah.
Let me make sure they know I want that role.
Yeah.
Let me learn from people that are already doing a similar role.
Yeah.
What steps, what's my action plan to get there? It's not I can't just wait for that role to come up and then say, oh, I'll apply. No,
Yeah.
just take a chance like that.
Yeah.
So I've always kind of had that kind of mindset. Other milestones, let's go into the personal ones, right? Getting married. So I got myself to a point where, I was comfortable with my financial position that I could consider getting married. Mentally I was in the right place to get married, and I got married 2014. Work hard to remember that. That was my official wedding date.
Yeah.
It was 2014.
Let's hope your wife ain't watching.
No, I got that right. I'm confident I got that right. And that obviously, like, I'm no longer just thinking about me. Immediately, there's someone else here I need to provide for. Then there's having children. We had our first daughter when 2017, and immediately a little girl, and immediately like okay, this is like the most precious thing.
Yeah, life changes when you have a girl.
Yeah, it's just.
I think kids in general, but a girl is just is just different.
A real blessing, and nothing is for me anymore.
Yeah.
Nothing's for me anymore.
Yeah.
If you need anything to motivate you, it's having children.
Yeah, 100%. Do you think that when you took them steps to get married and you had children, that you had a lot more barakah and you were blessed a lot more after that?
100%. So I often hear people say, "Oh, I can't get married yet," or "I can't have kids yet." Money's not where I want it to be, etc., etc. Honestly, so I've got 2 kids. I've got 2 examples, but for each of the 2 children that we've had, as soon as we've had it, I've got promotion, pay rise, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Money came from somewhere.
SubhanAllah,
God. I believe that God wants us to have families, wants us to have children, and God will bless you.
Yeah.
See,
I have this conversation. Obviously, in my personal life, I've had this conversation with other people and people that have come on the podcast, and we all come to this same conclusion that don't worry about your finances, whether you're getting married or having children, because the barakah that you get is indescribable. Like, you never even, things that you don't envisage will happen, things that you can't maybe comprehend. Like, sometimes you sit there and you plan, okay, by this time I want to do this, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just takes care of everything, and you just like, there's nothing that you have to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, look, every parent has general worries.
Yeah.
I don't get caught up in them because, like, they're not useful to me.
Yeah.
If anything, use that as fuel
Yeah.
to keep going.
Yeah.
And that's when I look at my daughters and see, you know, the excitement in their eyes, and just like they see me as like a hero to them, right?
Yeah.
I think any dad probably gets that from their kids, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
Like, they see you as a hero.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't let them down. Let that motivate you.
Yeah. I'm just going to go back to your upbringing now. So you said you moved around. How do you think you moving around impacted you? Did it have any negative effects or any positive effects?
I can't think of negative effects,
Yeah.
in all honesty, and perhaps that's just my experience.
Yeah.
There's like, wherever you go, there are positives and negatives, right?
Yeah.
But I don't believe that life is ever going to be perfect anywhere.
100%.
So like, expectations need to be that I'm not ever going to be somewhere faultless.
Yeah.
I'm never going to have an easy life.
Yeah.
Like, that's just table stakes. Like,
Yeah.
that's a given.
Yeah.
Moving around for me helped me get different experiences, meet different people, integrate with different societies, learn from them, take the good from different places.
Not much good from Birmingham.
Hey man, I'll tell you what, I didn't have many negative experiences in Birmingham. It's not the prettiest. I'm not, no offense to any Brummies,
we
but
joke about Birmingham, but I wouldn't trade my upbringing in Birmingham for anything. I feel like Birmingham's a bit perfect in the sense that it's a big city, but then there's still so many communities within it that is just comfortable in that sense. Everyone knows each other. And I feel like the community aspect's going now, but I think it's just a generational thing. But growing up, it was just like you get to pay on roads and things like that. And it's just everyone knew everyone.
As a Muslim living in the UK, when I lived in Birmingham, I really enjoyed it. There's lots of Muslim communities, halal food everywhere. Food was fantastic. Actually, if you're into like South Asian food, I think you're spoilt for choice in Birmingham. So I really enjoyed my time there. Nothing negative to say about it. For me, I really enjoyed the different places that I lived. I always like to think I take something good from them. I also feel that my upbringing in the UK, it was great for us at the time. I really, really enjoyed my childhood there. I've taken a lot from it. I also feel that now the UAE is the right place for us.
Yeah.
Conditions have changed.
What were your main reasons for moving to the UAE?
It wasn't one thing. I was always like a big advocate actually of the UK.
Yeah.
I remember growing up, so we're Lebanese, and we would go to Lebanon every year, and I'd meet my cousins, very few of whom lived overseas in the UK. Some of them lived in Kuwait and other Arab countries, etc. And they'd ask, what's it like? And I'd say, it's amazing. Like, I really used to big up and say, if you get a chance, I recommend you live there. I would say something over the last 7-8 years slowly started changing. And I think I just woke up one morning and thought, like, why am I still here?
Yeah.
Like, I remember I'd visit the UAE and I'd get a very positive sense of life. Like, I don't know if it's just the sunshine. I think I genuinely think the sunshine is a big part, and that's unfortunately, unless AI gets that good, I don't think anything they can do anything about that in the UK. And it's not for everyone as well. But I found that moving here and waking up, opening my curtains every morning and seeing sunshine, regardless of how hot it is outside, just doing that has lifted my mood. There hasn't been one day where I've woken up and thought, I don't want to do today.
Yeah.
Like, I can't be bothered to work. The sunshine helps. So like, I'd say weather was one factor. The other factor is, I think the economy in the UK isn't what it used to be.
Yeah.
And I found myself doing really well in my career, earning good money, alhamdulillah, but not feeling wealthier.
Yeah.
Cost of living was going up, taxes increased. And I didn't think and that was all good when public services were great.
Yeah.
Get a doctor's appointment quickly, roads are clean and tidy and no potholes, and
crime isn't as much.
Not as much crime, like you generally feel safe.
Yeah.
I think lots of those things were no longer there, and the ROI just wasn't there anymore for me.
Yeah.
So, and as a Muslim, moving to a Muslim country had its appeals as well. So by default here, I think life is comfortable for Muslims. I can pray anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry. But I remember, like in the UK, you'd have to plan your day around when the prayers were, and access to be able to clean yourself so that you can you can pray and all this kind of stuff. And here it's comfortable everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
And so I think that was it was multifaceted. Also having kids, and I think woke culture in the UK has affected, unfortunately, the standards
Yeah.
that we had when I was growing up.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And for that to have infiltrated schools over there, I think is a travesty.
Yeah.
I really hope. It feels like there's some kind of awakening to it now,
Yeah.
and some pushback happening. I hope that continues,
Yeah.
and we get back to teaching things sensibly in the UK to kids, because just some of the stuff that they're teaching them at an early age
Yeah.
just doesn't make sense. It
100%, yeah.
feels like there's some kind of agenda.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me, but I think that isn't here, that wokeism. I think family values are still very high up on the agenda here, and I think I really rate that.
Why do you think, like, I think growing up we had like family values were very significant. Why do you think that's become a thing in the UK that is not very significant anymore? Like, people don't spend time with their families, or there's always something else that they're doing rather than that?
Oh, it's really hard to kind of figure out exactly what it is that's done it. I think it's likely to be a combination of factors. I'm not going to get into conspiracy theories, but perhaps things like, I think there's, obviously we're in a global world now, right? We have access to videos and things from around the world on our fingertips on a daily basis, social media. I think we're more easily influenced as nations now by what's happening in other areas. So I think things like wokeism are very prevalent in places like Canada, in California, etc., in the US, right?
Yeah.
I think there's an element of that for it being kind of broadcast across the globe, and that can have social impact. I think social impact can more easily be transferred from one place to another these days than it could when we were younger. I think that's a big factor.
You'd learn about cultures by going somewhere when we were younger, whereas now it's just you learn about cultures from your comfort of your own home.
Yeah, and perhaps another thing is, I'd say, the extension of, I'd say, like liberalism.
Yeah.
So, liberal values have been around for a long time. I would say traditional religious values are on the downturn a bit in the UK, unfortunately.
Yeah, I feel like there's that hadith about Islam came as a strange thing and is going to become a strange thing, and day by day I just feel like, are we at that point now already? Because it's like everything is just more so about what you learn in school or what you learn as a society, rather than your traditional values in terms of religion and things like that. And that's kind of looked at strangely now, whereas before it wasn't. It was, we had, Iman was a bit more stronger. Like when we were growing up, especially in the UK, like the environment and the madrasa system and all of that, it was so big and so important. And I went to a school where it was predominantly Asian, before I went Islamic school, and then us same people would end up going to mosque together, then we'd end up going playing football together and that. And it's just within our communities, everyone had similar mindsets and that. And I feel like it's just changed so significantly now.
Yeah, and it's not even just in the Muslim community. I think religiosity, being religious, for a while was at least going down.
Yeah.
I do feel something is happening recently where there's been a bit of pushback, and you're getting people that have maybe been atheists or agnostic or whatever, starting to get a bit more interested in religion of some kind. And look, obviously as a Muslim, I feel that that's the way to go, but I almost feel like anyone that has God in mind is on the right track. And being influenced positively by a religion and having some kind of objective source of morality can play its part. It stops our minds trying to figure everything out when we're very easily swayed by what's going on in society. And are we the best people to really figure out what's moral and what's not?
What's not, How has the transition been for your family from moving to the UK to the UAE?
They've really enjoyed it so far. And, my wife grew up in the Middle East, so she grew up in Lebanon. She spent the last like she spent 9 or 10 years in the UK. I think for her, being in an Arab country, in a Muslim country, gives her a sense of comfort. I also think that the UAE is very unique insofar as someone that grew up in the West,
Yeah.
but with Arab and Muslim background, being here is like I'm getting the best of both worlds kind of thing. So it doesn't feel too alien.
Yeah.
It feels comfortable. I'll meet lots of other Arabs, lots of other Muslims, lots of Brits that are here as well.
Loads.
Yeah, there's loads of Brits. So like I think we feel as a family that this can be our long-term home, and that's the intention, is that we make it a long-term for as long as we're welcome here. I
feel like there's been a difference in kind of mindset from people that were coming here before. Like I think 10, 15 years ago, maybe a bit longer, people used to come here with the objection that with the objective that I'm gonna work here for 5 years maybe or 10 years, stack a lot of money that is tax free, and then go back to the UK. But I feel like anyone that I speak to now, it's more so, no, I'm moving here for the long term, for as long as, like you said, welcome here.
Yeah.
Hopefully
that's it. Like, hey, like never say never to anything.
Yeah.
My current plans don't involve me going back to the UK.
Yeah, me neither. But it's insane because, like, obviously our ancestors or maybe even your parents, that they moved for a better life somewhere else, and we're just doing the same thing for our kids that we think is the right thing by our kids.
That's it. It's about, we need to make our own decisions on these things. And, you know, I've left family behind.
Yeah.
So my parents, my brothers and sisters, the majority of them are in the UK.
Yeah.
We didn't have really anyone here. I've got an uncle.
Yeah.
I've got some friends. But that's the sacrifice. Just like my parents sacrificed for us, they left their families behind.
Yeah.
For that reason, you know, I have to do what's right for my children.
One thing I wanted to touch up on, like you said, you've left family and friends behind, but don't you feel like when you come to the UAE, a lot of people are in a similar position, they've come from the UK or whatever, but people are more welcoming and they're more there to help each other out, rather than in the UK where it's a bit more of a rat race, a bit more of like competing with everyone, and everyone's just like competing for the better car or whatever, you know, better house. Whereas here, I feel like people are more so, I think, content, a bit more comfortable, and they're happy to help each other out.
I think you get different segments of society here, that's for sure, like anywhere.
Yeah.
I think I do agree with you though, particularly as an entrepreneur, coming here, I meet lots of other entrepreneurs. We're all often in a similar place, we're experiencing similar challenges. You almost find your own tribe here.
Yeah.
And I do get that people genuinely, as a whole, in general, people want you to do well.
Yeah.
And I've really enjoyed that side of things as a business owner. I can't say if the experience is the same as an employee here, but I would say as a business owner working in a startup in the region, everyone seems to want you to do well. And as long as you're honest and deal with them with integrity, I feel that like the country is a very welcoming place to be. You are going to get people that get sucked up with the materialism. You know, unfortunately, it's very, well, fortunately or unfortunately, it's difficult to flex in Dubai, right? Like, you're going to, you might have the best car, then you know, what's your number plate? You know, this kind of things. Like, I don't get caught up in that stuff. Some people do. That's for them. And I think that's the impression that lots of people have of the UAE, of Dubai.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't, the majority of it is not like that.
Yeah.
And I genuinely think that if someone is interested, or if they do think that, then they should come here and dispel lots of the myths that they have in their head.
Yeah, by going around to the places like, not just the Palm Marina downtown, just have a look. There's places you can eat for cheap as well, and there's some good food.
Oh, there's honestly, like, you will put on weight, I'll tell you that. So like having a strict exercise and diet regime is, I think, going to be important for you if you do make the move. But look, I think lots of people have misconceptions of the region, of the country. I remember I was once at a conference in Austria, and I was talking to someone and mentioned I was moving to Dubai, or I was going to Dubai, and they said to me, "Oh, I'd never go there. You know, they oppress women. The women can't drive." And I was like, "Have you ever been?" Like, no. I was like, "You should go. It's not like, ask any woman here if she feels oppressed."
Mate, it's the safest place. Like, you do not have to worry about like your missus going out, or my daughter, like missus and daughter going out, they can go out wherever and you don't have to worry.
I can't believe I didn't bring that up. Honestly, the safety
Yeah.
is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, look, crime happens everywhere. Like, let's not pretend that it's 100% crime free. It's not.
Yeah.
But it's so much like better than any other place I've been in the world from a crime perspective, honestly. And
do you get this feeling when you go back to UK that as soon as you've landed back in the UK, you just have to shift in the mindset and you realize, oh, I can't be this, I can't leave my car keys anywhere, I can't leave my passport anywhere, everything just vigilant and...
Bro, honestly, so I stayed in Stratford last time. I was going to XeroCon. I stayed in Stratford for the first, and big up Stratford. I'm not, but like for the first time in a year at that point, I hadn't been to the UK for a year. And the first time in a year, I felt a bit unsafe. Like I had to worry about not carrying my phone out and all of this stuff. It's just, you take it. I literally will leave stuff about, and it's really cliche, but I'll leave stuff at cafes and just go pray, whatever, come back, it's all there. Like.
That's how you reserve a table, and you leave your wallet and your phone. That's how you reserve a table.
Yeah. It's mad, and look, people might push it too far, but honestly, the really, really hats off to everyone that's involved in making this place feel safe. Be it the authorities, be it just the people that are here, not trying to screw other people over, have integrity. We want, I think, as people as residents here, we want this safety to continue.
100%.
So I think people act responsibly, and we try and
I think,
look out for each other that way.
Yeah. I think the other thing about the cleanliness as well is the same thing with that. Like, I think I'm a bit more aware, and like if there's something, I'll pick it up and put it in the bin kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
But just naturally, because you want this to stay the way it is at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm going to go touch back to scope because there's a few things we've missed out. What impact will e-invoicing have in the next year?
I think it's going to be massive. We're yet to know the rollout plan. So for those that don't know, e-invoicing basically means that for businesses in the region, they're going to have to use e-invoicing compliance software. This is likely to be your accounting software or something that talks to it, that will then send a digital transaction to the other party's software.
Does that work country to country? So if someone's in the UAE, does it have to be invoiced to someone in the UK, for example, if they have a business in the UK?
It's going to depend, but typically it's domestic.
Okay.
Usually that's where they start.
Yeah.
Also, other markets tend to start by rolling it out, not to every single business at the same time. So it's business to business transactions. So I don't know, maybe at some point it will become business to B2C, business to consumer. But for now, initially it's going to be business to business.
Yeah.
And what it means is that, and it's more likely that they will start with the largest businesses first. So so Saudi Arabia have had e-invoicing for a few years now. Yeah. And they're releasing it in tranches. So wave 1, wave 2, I think it might be down to wave 9. Yeah. Might even be more than that. But essentially they started off with the businesses that generate the most revenue first, and then they move down by revenue bandings. Eventually, I think there might be a threshold where you don't have to do it potentially. If not, it might just be everyone. But they'll work their way down. We don't yet know what that looks like for the UAE, but starting next year, the first reporting date will be July 2026. Okay. We're expecting more information on what that rollout will look like and which businesses are affected in the coming months. Yeah. I think once we know that, we'll be able to really understand what impact that will have. But essentially, what it's likely to mean that eventually, if you're not already using accounting software, you will have to. Yeah. If you're using something old, it's likely you'll have to upgrade to something newer. Yeah. I also think if you're still on spreadsheets or on desktop software, you're really missing out by not being on cloud accounting software. 100%. You get to benefit from over-the-air updates all the time without having to go through an upgrade procedure, which became... What generally happens is you'll get the businesses that will upgrade regularly. It's very disruptive to the business. You have to spend a lot of money to do it. It's a project. Yeah. And then you'll get the businesses that don't want to spend the money. They don't want to go through the upheaval of upgrading the software and the disruption that does to their business. So they don't do it. And then they end up on like a 10-year-old version of the software and not benefiting from all the new innovation. And with AI innovating at the speed that it is, do you really want to be missing out? Because if you are missing out, I can tell you what, your leading competitors aren't. They're taking advantage of this new innovation, and they'll be quicker to market and more effective in the market than you are.
What do you think of AI?
I think AI is the new internet moment. Like
Yeah.
when the internet came, I think AI is revolution. It's going to have as significant an impact as the internet did.
Yeah, I think the way I look at it is if AI is the thing that we have access to, imagine what's behind that, like what they've already built. Like like AI is insane. Some of the things that AI does it's just ridiculous now. Like I think you'll get to a stage where you'll be able to literally AI will be your PA. They will do bookings on everything for you. Like I saw something the other day. You can put prompt into ChatGPT just so that you can find the cheapest flights.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's insane before you have to sit there, Skyscanner and things like that. How do you think AI is going to impact in accounting?
I think it's already been impacting accounting for a number
Yeah.
of years now, under a different umbrella.
Yeah,
So often people didn't attribute it to AI,
yeah,
but little things like machine learning in Xero's bank reconciliation, right?
Yeah.
So it learns how you code your transactions,
yeah,
and it gets better at it next time. Starts suggesting matches and stuff
Yeah.
like that. OCR software.
yeah,
OCR uses an element of AI for the machine learning as well aspect there.
Yeah.
So it will read a document that's in a structured or unstructured format and figure out what it is and try and essentially extract that data and put it into your accounting system for you.
yeah.
That's been around for years.
Yes, yeah,
AI has really enhanced that process of extraction now.
yeah,
And it will continue to get better and better. So before, you couldn't rely on it to read, let's say, handwritten receipts, which maybe they're not common in every market, but they
Yeah.
are still available
Yeah.
in many places. These days, the software can, if you can read it, the software can. So like that AI is really helping enhance that process. OCR is becoming ICR, so this is intelligent character recognition,
Yeah.
not optical character recognition. So it's getting better. We're also starting to see it affect reporting and insights.
yeah,
So this looks like better cash flow forecasting, where it can use the data that you've got to draw even better insights than before. So as a CFO, as the FD, you don't have to do all that work of trawling through the data necessarily yourself. The software will start to be able to draw some insights for you, suggest reasons why, let's say there's a certain anomaly.
yeah,
So let's say an example could be your sales normally track 100,000. 1 month it jumps up to 500,000 and then it goes back.
yeah,
Well, it could say, well, hang on, there's an anomaly here. It could be because you also had this event which was running at that point and you got lots of leads from that event, which convert, like whatever it might be.
yeah,
The software can try to spot patterns, which would take you, lots and lots of time of probably downloading things into Excel and doing some wizardry with your pivot tables to figure out. It can start to suggest things, and your job then is to enrich that. So I don't think a finance person's job is necessarily going to go away.
yeah,
I think you are going to be empowered to make better decisions more quickly. And that's the role that I think AI is going to play, is to draw out these insights.
I think you have to embrace it, especially in accounting, because if AI can make your job a lot easier, a lot quicker, you can service more clients, you can add value to more clients, as opposed to someone that's going to like put it into Excel and do pivot tables, and it take you a lot longer time. So you've got a lot less time to give to your clients. That means that you need less clients that you can actually service.
Yeah, and a broader impact on businesses. So accounting firms are also businesses.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They're not just doing accounting
People
all
forget
day.
that. I think that's one thing in accounts. I think when someone works in practice, let's say they might have worked in a Big Four or another practice or whatever, they learn to become an accountant. That's your job. And then after that, when you set your own business up as an accountant, you set it up as an accountant and not as a business owner. Whereas you're a business owner now, you've got to worry about sales, you've got to worry about leads, you've got to worry about marketing, you've got to worry about staff, you've got to worry about management. And then you want to do the accounts as well, and you want to do all of this. It's impossible.
Yeah, and this is it. So I think lots of the business owners who were accountants became business owners, didn't learn how to go to market. They didn't learn about marketing, sales, etc., as you said. These days, if you're not doing any marketing, you don't have an online presence, and you don't want to spend money, start and use ChatGPT to help you. There's lots of tips out there of how it can be helpful and how you can prompt it the right way. I would rather people got started than did nothing at all.
Yeah.
Because it's really important that you do market your business. I'm not saying that ChatGPT is better than human marketers. It's not. It's nowhere near as good these days. It will give you a good place to start if you're doing nothing.
Yeah.
Then you'll start to learn a little bit about the space. So you can prompt it in a way so that it can help you come up with some kind of plan. You may then decide that I need help to execute this plan. You may decide that I should run this past someone. At least it helps speed up the creative process to some extent. It doesn't take away, it's nowhere near as good as human creativity yet.
Yep.
And the worst thing you can do is just take what ChatGPT tells you and paste it into LinkedIn and think that that's going to do justice.
Man,
I post about this all the time.
I see this all the time, and then the dashes are there, and it's like you'll have sometimes, like I've seen someone post something the other day, and at the bottom it says, if you want me to change this, let me know, and let me know what suggestions or whatever. And I'm just like, you've literally copied and pasted it.
Yeah.
Like even without taking the things out.
Yeah, you've even copied the ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So honestly, there's lots of abuse. I think ChatGPT is going to need another AI therapist one day to help make it feel better with all the abuse it's suffered from people using it that way. But I think it's really, really helpful as a tool to help you understand how to navigate new processes that you're not familiar with.
Yeah.
Hopefully it whets your appetite to seek help from professionals that can help you maximize it, because even the pros now, they're using it. But they'll use it the right way. They've learned to adopt it in the right way, and where it's got its strengths and where it actually, you can't just take what it does. So it's a learning curve. There's a learning curve there.
You can't just take what it says, because there are things that are not accurate on there as well.
Yeah.
You touched upon LinkedIn. You're quite popular on LinkedIn. You're quite active on LinkedIn. How's your LinkedIn journey been? And how difficult is it?
Yeah, great question. So I've been on LinkedIn, believe it or not, since 2011.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes me an early adopter. I don't know when it started, but I was there in the early days.
You know what, actually, thinking back at it, I think LinkedIn was around that time where it started becoming a bit popular.
Yeah, so I'll try and claim some credit for that somewhere.
I just finished school.
So LinkedIn, I've been on it for a while. I think it almost felt like an online CV for many years.
Yeah.
Then you started seeing the rise of creators on there and how they were able to leverage platforms like LinkedIn to help grow their businesses. So naturally, when I started to want to grow my business out here, I thought, what better way to reach a lot of people than to build a personal brand myself and tell my own unique story.
Yeah.
And so, this was like not even a couple of years ago now, I started on that journey I remember when I moved here to the UAE, that I'm going to post every weekday.
Yeah.
No matter what. I think the only time I didn't was when I went to Umrah, because I wanted that to be a spiritual moment for me. But largely, I've stuck to that. And the idea isn't that I've got this ego that I want to feed and I want to get my face out there and I want people to like me and this kind. It's not about that. It's for business.
Yeah.
Frankly, it's to grow a network. It's also to have the maximum impact that I can. I genuinely believe that what we're doing can have a positive impact on the businesses we work with and the broader region and the economy here, which I think is on the right tracks to doing something great. So what better way for me to accelerate that process than to share that message with as many people as I can? And I found LinkedIn was the right media channel for my line of work.
Yep.
So one thing that I've learned is that it takes consistency. There's days when you don't want to post, but I'm a little bit stubborn and I will post even if I don't want to. Sometimes it means that I'm posting a little bit later than I would have planned.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do it regardless. And I think that's the thing that helps you grow your presence. It's that consistency.
How do you come up with so much content? I mean, 5 days a week, you're looking at...
It's not always easy.
I know, yeah.
It's not always easy, but I still do it all myself, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think once you're in the industry, there's different topics that people, I think, like me to cover. One being the line of work that we're in, talking about scope, talking about Accounting Refigured, which is the event that we run.
I'm going to come on to that next.
Yeah. I'll let you come on to that. I thought I'd slip it in just in case you forgot. Other things, so that's kind of what we do in the market to try and educate about accounting technology and SME technology in general. And then there's people who are interested in following the entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
What does that look like for me as someone, not only an entrepreneurial journey, but one having moved from the UK to Dubai? People are interested in that journey. Then there's people just wanting to learn from someone that's been around the block a little bit. It's a bit worse for wear. That's been through the battles, I think, and just sharing, whether it's the odd inspirational quote or just, I guess, business ethics or whatever it might be, like just snippets of inspiration. I think people are interested in those kind of things as well.
I feel like it's very difficult with LinkedIn because you want to live a private life. I feel like you and me, we're pretty much similar in that sense. You want to live a private life, but then becoming a personal brand and doing LinkedIn especially, you've kind of got to open up as well. How do you find that difficult, or was there resistance at any point from you that I'm not going to do that, but then ended up changing course? Or
I think in general, I've towed that line well.
Yeah.
And everyone's line is in a different place.
Yeah.
So I'll never judge people that want to regularly share things about their family. That's cool. Like, it's your family, whatever works for you. That's absolutely cool. I've occasionally featured my daughters in the odd post. It's probably one or two a year tops. Where it's relevant, I feel. I've done it before. I'd say the majority of the time, what I'm talking about, it's just relatable content, and it's not there to give people insight into my family life. That's not what it's there for. It's there to educate the market on how we can help. It's there to inspire people to, if they've got unfulfilled potential, be it as an entrepreneur, be it as a professional, then explore that further. Be prepared to take risks. I want to share, I guess, some of my own ethos when it comes to doing business with others.
Yeah.
I want people to do well. And I think those two things are enough to kind of guide the content that I put out there.
Yeah. You recently added to your team at Scope. How's that been?
Yeah, great. Big up Fahim. So the process of actually hiring was difficult, I would say. So the skill set that I was looking for early on was hard to come by in the market here in particular. So because accounting technology hasn't been that prevalent here, it meant that the top tier talent in that space were also probably not here.
Yeah.
So we had a few individuals that, most of whom actually that got shortlisted towards the latter processes, none of them were in the UAE. So they were in other regions. Eventually came across Fahim over in the UK, and he started out working for us remotely and then moved himself over in January. And it's been great. It's great having someone who understands the space already, that is easy to get on with, and that wants to build something with you. Yeah. Again, I talked about this earlier about not hiring yes men.
Yeah.
I didn't want to hire a yes man. I also didn't want to hire someone too junior. So I think lots of people early on in business maybe fall down this trap. Either it's a trap that they're unaware of, or they're aware of it, but that's all they can afford is hiring too junior, too early. What I didn't want to do was bring someone in that was going to demand too much of my time and actually take from me, because I'm already thinking ahead, how can I grow the business? How can I get involved with it strategically and less operationally? To do that, I need to be bringing in people that have potential for leadership. So that's what I was looking for. I feel that the process is going well so far, and he's had a lot to learn and to pick up on. It's a new market, lots of new software to get up to speed with, lots of relationships to build with people on the ground here. The UAE is a very relationship oriented business culture. So there's lots of work to do. I think we're making a good team so far.
Going to Accounting Refigured in May. So that's your event. You're hosting that event. Tell us more about the event.
Yeah, so when I moved here, I started attending events to get a feel for the lay of the land, to meet other people in the accounting space, to meet people in the tech space. In the UK, we already talked about this, there's lots of these events, accounting technology events now, maybe too many. We didn't have that problem here.
Yeah.
So I was going to accounting and finance events. They are like what you would expect an accounting and finance event to be.
Yeah.
Often focused, sometimes maybe too technical, from talking about IFRS regulations, etc., etc. And look, that's useful stuff, and it's got its audience. What I don't think those events do is push the digitalization aspect enough.
Yeah.
They don't do it enough credit. Then I went to technology events, the likes of a Seamless, a Gitex. Huge events, like hats off to the organizers for running these things. Honestly, like having been involved in events now for the last couple of years, I can fully appreciate the amount of effort that goes into running these things. And they are fantastic. What they're not, though, is specific to accounting and finance people. So if you're going to this huge exhibition and you want to find someone that offers an accounting or finance solution, you're looking for a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
It's tiring. Also, if you're exhibiting at one of those events, it's likely the footfall you're going to get isn't all going to be in your target audience.
Yeah.
So I recognized that there was a need for something different here. And I took from the playbook that I'd seen when I was at Xero with XeroCon, and when I'd go to Accountex, etc. And I saw what those were about. And I thought, okay, we could do something on a smaller scale, but something similar here. So myself and Zubair, who I used to work with at Xero, he was in marketing at Xero. We kind of just got in touch one day, and he was interested in the market out here.
Yeah.
And we just decided together, hey, let's run an event.
Yeah.
And the idea was always to educate the market here. We never got into it for it to be a money-making affair. We recognise that for scope to thrive here, for accountants to thrive here, for accounting technology companies to thrive here, the conditions need to be there. The market needs to be educated. So we created this space whereby we have the most forward-thinking exhibitors, like tech companies in the accounting and finance space, in the same room as the most forward-thinking accounting and finance people in the space. So this is aimed at like the practice owners. It's aimed at leaders of finance in the business, in industry, and just get them in a space whereby we're having like TED-style talks is the conference. So people will get to hear from forward-thinking people in this space from around the world, whether it's people that have done it here or people that have done it further afield. And we've had speakers all the way from Australia. Every single event, for some reason, we attract attendees from South Africa. South Africans seem to love Accounting Refigured, and they're very welcome. But they will literally make a trip over just for the event, which is fantastic. So yeah, we've been really pleased with the reception we've had. People have said to us, hey, we didn't even realize we needed something like this. It's breath of fresh air. It's completely different. We don't do a stuffy affair. We don't do it in a hotel with like suit and tie, that kind of thing. It's not our vibe. It's more relaxed. We're doing it in a warehouse, and of course, it's an event place. Like, it's not just some random warehouse where you're going to have like chickens running around or something. Like, it's a legit event venue. But we just have a more laid back vibe, and I think that's a really important thing. If you're going to disrupt an industry, you can't just give people what they're used to.
It has to be different.
We have to inject something new to disrupt the way that they're doing things. And we ran it in March last year for the first time ever in Dubai. We then ran a spin-off event, which is like a more hands-on version called Accounting Refigured the Labs in September, also in Dubai. We then ran our first ever one in Cyprus. So we opened up in Cyprus as well.
I think that's when we had our first meeting.
Probably.
You were in Cyprus at the time.
That's right, yeah. So we also ran one in Cyprus as well. It also went down really well. So this is like the fourth time we're doing it. In the last 13, 15 months.
Lastly, if anyone's looking to move to the UAE, what advice would you give them?
I would say visit first. If you've never visited, make sure you come and see what it's like. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Also, make sure that your work situation is worked out. So get yourself a good job here, or have a solid business idea with enough money behind you to get you through the early stages. it's likely that you've underestimated how much some things are going to cost you early on.
Yep.
If you know people here, get advice. We've all been through it, and most people are more than happy to share their insights. But I would say, if it works out for you on paper and it feels right to you, and your circumstances from a family perspective, from a financial perspective, from a lifestyle perspective, make it make sense, give it a go. It's immensely rewarding, I feel, being here in so many ways. And for all the reasons we spoke about earlier, I feel it's worth giving it a shot.
100%. Thank you very much, Ayman.
Thanks.
Been a great talk. It's been quite long as well.
Thanks for having me, man. I really enjoyed it.
No problem.